Jake Martinez leaned back in his chair and took another sip of his drink. The space station was huge, with beings from dozens of different worlds walking around. Some had 4 arms, others had blue skin, and a few looked almost like humans, but with strange eyes or pointed ears. "Look at all these fancy aliens," Jake said to his friend Ryan Blake, who sat next to him. "They think they're so tough with their shiny ships and weird technology." Ryan shook his head. "Come on, Jake. Some of these species have been fighting wars for thousands of years. Maybe we should show some respect," Jake laughed. "Respect? Did you see that simulation earlier? Our basic fighter beat their so-called advanced ship. These aliens talk big, but when it comes to real fighting, humans know what we're doing." The space station hosted a big meeting between different species. Each group brought their best pilots to show off their ships and fighting skills in computer simulations. It was supposed to help everyone understand each other better and maybe work together against pirates and other threats. Jake had watched several demonstrations that day. The bug-like Zephyrians moved fast but couldn't think quickly when plans changed. The rock-skinned Gorvani hit hard but moved too slowly. Then came the Kethmori. The Kethmori looked almost like elves from old Earth stories. They had pale blue skin that seemed to glow softly, long silver hair, and bright eyes that changed color. They moved with grace and spoke in formal, polite ways. Many humans called them beautiful, but Jake thought they looked weak. Their pilot was named Zarathix. She stood tall and proud, wearing a tight-fitting uniform that showed strange symbols. Her silver hair was braided with small metal pieces that made soft sounds when she moved. When she spoke, her voice was clear and confident. "The Kethmori have protected the outer systems for over 300 years, she announced to the crowd. "Our ships and pilots are trained in ancient fighting methods passed down through generations." Jake rolled his eyes. "Ancient methods? That's just a fancy way of saying old and outdated." The simulation began. Zara's ship was sleek and beautiful, covered in flowing designs that looked more like art than military equipment. It moved through space like a dancer, smooth and graceful. Her fighting style was formal and precise, following patterns that looked almost like a ceremony. Her opponent was a human pilot named Kelly Wong, flying a standard Earth Defense Force fighter. Kelly's ship was plain and simple, built for function, over beauty. Where Zara's ship danced, Kelly's ship struck like a hammer. The two ships circled each other in the virtual space. Zara performed elegant maneuvers, trying to position herself for a perfect strike according to her training. Kelly ignored the formal patterns and attacked from unexpected angles. When Zara moved left to follow an ancient attack sequence, Kelly went right and caught her off guard. When Zara tried to maintain proper distance for honor combat, Kelly rushed in close where the Kethmori ship's long-range weapons couldn't work well. The simulation ended with Kelly's simple human fighter defeating Zara's advanced alien ship, the crowd murmured quietly. Some aliens looked surprised while others seemed thoughtful. The Kethmori delegation stood very still, their faces showing no emotion. Jake stood up and clapped loudly. "Well, that was something. I guess all that ancient training doesn't help much against good old human common sense." People around him started to look uncomfortable. Ryan grabbed Jake's arm. "Sit down, man. You're being rude." But Jake was just getting started. He raised his voice so more people could hear. "I mean, did you see that? All those fancy moves and pretty ship designs, and she still lost to basic human tactics. Maybe these space elves should stick to making jewelry instead of pretending to. Be warriors." The room went very quiet. Aliens stopped talking and turned to stare at Jake. Even the humans looked embarrassed. Zara Thix stood frozen at the pilot station. Her face had gone pale, and her bright eyes seemed to dim. The other Kethmori around her looked shocked and angry. An older Kethmori with more decorations on her uniform stepped forward. "Human pilot," she said in a cold voice. "You speak of things you do not understand. Pilot Zara Thix is one of our finest warriors, with over 50 victories against pirates and raiders." Jake shrugged. "Well, she just got beaten by one of our average pilots. Maybe your 50 victories were against other pretty space elves who fight by the same old rules." Several aliens gasped. The Kethmori elder's face showed anger for the first time. Zarathix finally moved. She walked slowly toward Jake, her back straight and her head high. When she stopped in front of him, Jake could see that her hands were shaking slightly. "Human pilot," she said, her voice very quiet. "You have insulted my honor and the honor of my people. I challenge you to single combat, ship to ship, to settle this matter properly." Jake looked at her and started laughing. "Combat? With you? Look, lady, I don't fight angry fairies. Maybe you should go back to your pretty ship and practice your dancing some more." The insult hit Zara like a physical blow. In Kethmori culture, being called weak or ceremonial was the worst possible shame. Being refused a challenge was even worse. Her fellow Kethmori made soft sounds of distress. Some put their hands over their hearts in a gesture of sympathy. Zara stood there for a long moment, her face showing the pain of public humiliation. Then she spoke, her voice barely a whisper. I understand." She turned and walked away, her head no longer high, her graceful movements now seeming broken. Jake sat back down, feeling pleased with himself. "See? They can't handle real pressure. All that honor and tradition stuff is just for show." But Ryan was staring at him with disgust. "You know what, Jake? Sometimes you're a real jerk." Around them, the other species began talking again, but now they looked at the human delegation differently. Some seemed disappointed, others angry. Jake didn't notice. He finished his drink and started planning what he would say about his victory, over alien pride. He had no idea that his words had just changed everything, not just for Zarathix, but for himself as well. The damage was done, and there was no taking it back. 3 weeks had passed since the incident at the space station. Jake Martinez was back on Frontier Colony 7, a small human settlement on the edge of known space. He had almost forgotten about the pretty alien pilot he had embarrassed. The colony was simple and rough, built for miners and farmers who wanted to make new lives far from Earth. Jake worked as a patrol pilot, keeping pirates away from the supply ships that came and went. He was eating lunch in the colony's main cafeteria when Ryan Blake rushed in looking worried. "Jake, you need to see this," Ryan said, pulling out his tablet. "There's a Kethmori ship requesting permission to land. They're asking for you specifically." Jake looked at the screen showing a sleek alien vessel hovering outside the colony's shields. It was smaller than a warship, but still impressive, with those flowing designs the Kethmori loved so much. "What do they want with me?" Jake asked, though he was starting to feel uncomfortable. "I don't know, but Commander Lisa Harper wants to see you right away. She's in the control room." Jake found Commander Harper staring at the communication screen, where an elderly Kethmori face was waiting. The alien had the same silver hair and glowing eyes as the others, but her face was marked with lines of age and worry. "Pilot Martinez," Commander Harper said when Jake entered. "This is Elder Vex Andra of the Kethmori fleet. She says she has important business with you." The alien elder looked directly at Jake through the screen. "Human pilot Jake Martinez. I bring you Zarathix, daughter of the Star Winds, once proud warrior of our people. She comes to fulfill the ancient law of honor debt." Jake felt confused. "Honor debt? What's that supposed to mean?" Elder Vexandra's expression grew sad. "When you defeated her in public and refused her challenge, you created a bond under our oldest laws. Zarathix has lost all honor among our people. She can only restore it by serving the one who brought her low until she proves her worth in your eyes." "That's crazy," Jake said. "I didn't defeat her. She lost a simulation to Kelly Wong, not me." "You defeated her spirit," the elder replied. "You broke her pride before witnesses from many worlds. By our law, this makes you responsible for her honor. She has stripped herself of rank, possessions, and family ties. She comes to you bare of everything except her duty to serve." Commander Harper looked at Jake with disapproval. "What exactly did you do at that space station?" Before Jake could answer, Ryan spoke up. "He called them space elves and fairies. He said they couldn't fight and should stick to making jewelry." The elder's face tightened with pain. "Yes, those words have spread across our fleet. Zarathix, who once commanded 3 ships and won 50 battles, is now called the Human's Fairy by some of our younger warriors. She cannot return to us until this debt is paid." "Well, I don't want her here," Jake said. "Tell her to go home and forget about it." "Impossible," Elder Vexandra replied. "She has sworn the old oaths. If you refuse her service, she will die of shame. Is this what humans call honor?" Commander Harper stepped forward. "We'll accept her temporarily while we figure this out. Have her land in Bay 3. An hour later, Jake stood in the landing bay watching the Kethmori ship settle onto the metal floor. The ship was beautiful up close, covered in symbols that seemed to move in the light. A ramp lowered, and Zarathix walked out. Jake barely recognized her. Gone was the proud warrior in the decorated uniform. Instead, she wore simple gray clothes with no decorations or symbols of rank. Her silver hair hung loose around her shoulders, no longer braided with the metal pieces that marked a warrior. She carried a single small bag and nothing else. She walked directly to Jake and dropped to one knee, her head bowed. "I am Zarathix, no longer of house or rank," she said in a voice that sounded empty. "I have come to serve Jake Martinez, who holds my honor in his hands. I place myself under your command, my captain." "Get up," Jake said, feeling embarrassed. "This is stupid. I don't want a servant." Zara stood but kept her eyes down. "What you want does not matter, my captain. Only what I must do matters. I will serve until you judge me worthy, or until I die in your service." Dr. Amy Foster, the colony's cultural expert, had come to watch. She stepped forward with a worried expression. "Jake, I've been reading about Kethmori culture. This is very serious. In their society, honor is more important than life. If she says she'll die of shame, she means it literally. Their people have been known to stop eating or sleeping when they lose all honor." Jake looked at Zara, who stood perfectly still like a statue. "Look, Zara. Can I call you Zara?" "You may call me whatever pleases you, my captain." "Right. Look, I'm sorry I said those things. I was showing off and being stupid. You don't need to do this servant thing." Zara finally looked up, and Jake was shocked by what he saw in her eyes. They were completely empty of the pride and fire he remembered. "Your words cannot release me, my captain. Only your judgment of my worth can restore what was lost. Until then, I am nothing but your tool to use as you see fit." "But I don't know anything about your culture or how to judge warrior stuff," Jake protested. "Then I will teach you our ways while I serve," Zara replied. "I will cook your food, maintain your equipment, and fight your battles until you understand what honor means to my people." Commander Harper pulled Jake aside. "We can't just send her away. It could cause a diplomatic incident with the Kethmori. They're important allies against the pirate fleets." Jake rubbed his forehead, feeling a headache coming on. "So now I'm stuck with an alien servant because I made some jokes?" "You're stuck with the consequences of your actions," Dr. Foster said firmly. "The question is, what are you going to do about it?" Jake looked back at Zara, who waited patiently for his orders. He noticed she was very thin, probably from not eating much since the incident. "Fine," he said finally, "but I don't want a servant. If you're going to stay here, you'll work like everyone else. We have spare quarters in Building C. Ryan will show you where." "As you command, my captain," Zara said, bowing her head again as they walked toward the living quarters. Jake heard Dr. Foster talking quietly to Commander Harper. "This could actually be an opportunity. If we can help her restore her honor properly, it might improve relations between humans and Kethmori. But if Jake handles this badly, it could make things much worse," the commander finished. Jake didn't want to hear any more. He had come to this frontier colony to get away from complications and politics. Now he had an alien warrior following him around, calling him captain and talking about honor debts. As they reached the building, Zara stopped and looked back at her ship. For just a moment, Jake saw real sadness in her expression. "Regrets?" he asked. "I am not permitted regrets, my captain," she replied. "I am only permitted service until I am worthy again." Jake watched her walk into the building, her back straight despite everything she had lost. He was beginning to realize that his careless words had done more damage than he ever imagined. The question now was whether he could figure out how to fix it. 2 weeks had passed since Zara arrived at the colony. Jake was starting to get used to having her around, though it still felt strange. She followed his orders exactly, no matter how simple or complicated. When he told her to help Ryan fix the communication array, she worked for 12 hours straight without complaining. When he mentioned he was tired of eating the same colony food every day, she somehow found ingredients to make meals that actually tasted good. The weird part was how she took everything he said as a direct command. "I could really use some coffee," Jake had said one morning, just thinking out loud. 20 minutes later, Zara appeared with a perfect cup of coffee and a small plate of something that looked like cookies but tasted better than anything he'd ever had. "Where did you learn to make these?" he asked. "Kethmori warriors must learn many skills, my captain. Cooking, mechanics, medicine. A warrior who cannot care for herself cannot care for others." Jake was learning that the Kethmori were much more complicated than he had thought. They weren't just pretty fighters who followed old traditions. They were tough, smart, and trained in ways that made human military training look simple. But Zara never showed off her skills unless Jake specifically asked. She seemed to be trying to make herself invisible most of the time. Everything changed when the pirates came. Jake was in the control room when the alarm started screaming. Commander Harper was shouting orders while technicians ran around checking. "Their screens. What's happening?" Jake asked. "Massive pirate fleet dropping out of hyperspace," Ryan reported from his station. "At least 20 ships, including 3 heavy cruisers. They're demanding we surrender all our supplies and evacuables." Jake looked at the tactical display and felt his heart sink. The colony had only 6 patrol fighters and a small defense station. They were completely outmatched. "How long until reinforcements arrive?" Commander Harper asked. "Nearest fleet is 4 days away," came the reply. "4 days," Jake said. "We'll be lucky to last 4 hours against that many ships." Zara had been standing quietly in the corner, but now she stepped forward. "My captain, if I may suggest." Everyone turned to look at her. Jake realized it was the first time she had spoken without being asked a direct question. "What is it?" he said. "I have studied the pirate formations on your screens. They use standard hit-and-run tactics, but they have weaknesses. Their ships are fast but not well coordinated. If we could divide their attention," Commander Harper interrupted. "You're saying we should fight them?" "I am saying that running is not always the only choice," Zara replied calmly. "Sometimes a smaller force can defeat a larger one by being smarter." Jake looked at the screen again. The pirate ships were getting closer and their fighters were already launching. "What did you have in mind?" he asked. Zara moved to the tactical display and began pointing at different areas. "The pirates expect you to group your ships together for defense. Instead, we split into 3 groups. One group draws their attention from the front, while the other 2 attack from the sides. When they turn to face the side attacks, the front group hits their command ships." "That's crazy," Ryan said. "Our ships aren't fast enough to pull off maneuvers like that." "Human ships are not fast," Zara agreed. "But they are tough. And human pilots do not think like pirates expect them to think." Jake stared at the display, trying to follow her plan. It was risky, but everything was risky now. "You think this could work?" he asked. "I think it is better than waiting here to die," Zara said simply. Commander Harper made the decision. "All pilots to your ships. We're going to try something different." As they ran toward the hangar, Jake grabbed Zara's arm. "I don't suppose you know how to fly human fighters?" "I have studied your ship designs, my captain. The controls are different, from Kethmori ships, but the principles are the same." "Good, because I'm putting you in Ship 4. Try not to get killed on your first day as my wingman." For the first time since she arrived, Jake saw something like a smile cross Zara's face. "I will do my best not to disappoint you, my captain." The battle started badly. The pirates had more ships, bigger guns, and more experience working together. Jake's first attack run nearly got him killed when 3 pirate fighters surrounded him. Then Zara's voice came over the radio, calm and clear. "Captain Jake, break left on my mark. 3, 2, mark." Jake turned hard left just as Zara's ship appeared. From nowhere, guns blazing. 2 of the pirate fighters exploded instantly, and the 3rd ran away. "Where did you learn to shoot like that?" Jake asked, breathing hard. 50 victories against pirates, remember?" Zara replied. "I know how they think." The battle turned into a wild chase through the asteroid field near the colony. Jake found himself following Zara's lead more and more. She seemed to know exactly where the pirates would be and what they would do next. "Group 2, hit the big ship from below," she called out. "They will turn their heavy guns down to track you. Group 3, when they turn, hit their engine section." When do you give orders?" Jake asked. But he was smiling as he said it. "Since my captain needs help not getting killed," Zara shot back. Jake realized she was right. Her plan was working. The pirates were getting confused and angry, making mistakes they wouldn't normally make. But the colony's ships were taking damage. 2. Ryan's fighter lost an engine and had to return to base. 2 other pilots were hit and barely made it back. "We can't keep this up much longer," Jake said over the radio. "We do not need to," Zara replied. "Look at your screen. The pirate command ship is moving forward to coordinate their attack. If we can disable it—" Jake saw what she meant. The big pirate cruiser was leaving the protection of its escorts to get a better view of the battle. "That's suicide," he said. "That ship has enough guns to blow us apart before we get close." "Not if we approach from their blind spot," Zara said. "Human ships are small enough to hide in the cruiser's sensor shadow, but we would have to get very close." Jake looked at his fuel gauge and weapons display. He had enough for 1 good attack. Run. Maybe 2 if he was lucky. "All right," he said. "Let's do something stupid." They dove toward the big ship using the wreckage of destroyed fighters to hide their approach. Jake's hands were sweating as the cruiser got bigger and bigger on his screen. "Steady, my captain," Zara's voice said calmly. "Wait for their shields to cycle. When I give the word, hit their bridge section with everything you have." "And what will you be doing?" "Something very stupid," she replied, and Jake could hear the smile in her voice. At the last second, Zara's ship broke away from his and dove straight toward the cruiser's engine section. Her guns lit up the darkness as she fired everything she had into the ship's power core. Jake hit the bridge just as Zara's attack caused the cruiser's engines to explode. The big ship shuddered and began to drift, its lights going out one by one. The smaller pirate ships, seeing their command vessel disabled, decided they had had enough. They jumped to hyperspace and disappeared, leaving the colony in peace. Back in the hangar, Jake climbed out of his fighter and saw Zara doing the same. Her ship was smoking and had burn marks all over it, but she was alive. "That was insane," he said. "You could have been killed." "But I was not," Zara replied. "And neither were you, my captain." Commander Harper came running up to them. "Outstanding work, both of you. I've never seen flying like that." Jake looked at Zara, who was trying to look invisible again now that the fighting was over. "Yeah," he said slowly. "I'm starting to think I didn't know what I was talking about before." That night, Jake found Zara sitting alone in the cafeteria, staring out the window at the stars. "Mind if I sit?" he asked. "You do not need permission, my captain." "Maybe not," Jake said, sitting down across from her. "But I'm asking anyway." They sat in comfortable silence for a while. Finally, Jake spoke up. "You saved all of us today. That plan of yours was brilliant." "I did what any warrior would do," Zara replied quietly. "No," Jake said firmly. "What you did was special. I was wrong about your people. I was wrong about a lot of things." Zara looked at him with surprise. "My captain." "I'm starting to understand something," Jake said. "Honor isn't just about following old rules. It's about doing the right thing, even when it's hard. You've got more honor than anyone I know." For the first time since she arrived, Zara's eyes showed a tiny spark of hope. "Does this mean—" she started to ask. "No," Jake said, and the spark died. "I mean, not yet. I still don't really understand your culture or how this honor thing works. But I'm willing to learn." Zara nodded slowly. "Then I will continue to serve. And teach, my captain." "One more thing," Jake said as he got up to leave. "In that battle today, you didn't fight like my servant. You fought like my partner." As he walked away, Jake didn't see the small smile that crossed Zara's face, or the way she sat up a little straighter in her chair. After the pirate attack, everything changed at the colony. Word spread quickly about how Jake and Zara had worked together to save everyone. But instead of celebrating, Jake found himself thinking more and more about what Dr. Foster had told him about Kethmori culture. He started spending time in the colony's small library, reading everything he could find about alien societies. What he learned made him feel sick to his stomach. Zara had been one of the most respected warriors in the Kethmori fleet. She commanded 3 ships and over 200 people. She had a family name that went back centuries and honors that took decades to earn. And Jake had destroyed all of it with a few careless jokes. "I didn't know," he said to Dr. Foster one evening as they sat in her office. I thought she was just another pilot who lost a simulation. The Kethmori don't separate military skill from personal honor the way humans do, Dr. Foster explained. When you mocked her fighting ability in public, you attacked everything she was. In their culture, that's worse than a physical assault. Jake rubbed his face with his hands. So what happens now? How does she get her honor back? That's the problem, Dr. Foster said sadly. The old laws say she has to serve until the person who shamed her judges her worthy. But those laws were written thousands of years ago for fights between Kethmori warriors. There's no precedent for a human making that judgment. You mean I could keep her as a servant forever? Technically, yes. Or until she dies of shame. Some Kethmori who lose their honor completely just stop living. They don't eat, don't sleep, don't care for themselves until their bodies give up. Jake felt even worse. Is Zara doing that? Not yet, but I'm worried. She's lost weight since she arrived and she never seems to rest. She's holding on because she has hope that serving you will restore her honor. But if that hope dies... That night, Jake couldn't sleep. He kept thinking about Zara, alone in her small room, carrying the weight of a shame he had created. He got up and walked to Building C, where she was staying. He found her in the small maintenance shop working on damaged fighter parts by lamplight. She looked up when he entered, immediately standing at attention. My captain, do you require something? Yeah, Jake said. I require you to stop calling me that and talk to me like a normal person for 5 minutes. Zara looked confused. I do not understand. Sit down, Jake said, pointing to a workbench. Please. She sat, but her back stayed straight and her hands folded properly in her lap. Tell me about your life before, Jake said. Before the space station. What was it like being a ship commander? That life is gone, my captain. It does not matter now. It matters to me, Jake said firmly. I want to understand who you were before I screwed everything up. Zara was quiet for a long time. Then, slowly, she began to speak. I had 3 ships under my command, the Star's Edge, the Night Wind, and the Silver Dawn. Good ships, with crews who trusted me. We patrolled the border systems, protecting trade, routes from raiders. Her voice grew softer as she talked. I had a younger brother who served on the Night Wind. He was so proud when I made fleet commander. He used to say I was the bravest warrior in the family. What happened to your ships? Your crew? They were reassigned to other commanders when I lost my rank. My brother, he volunteered for the most dangerous missions after I left. He said he needed to restore family honor through his own actions. Jake felt like someone had punched him in the gut. Is he okay? I do not know. I am not permitted to contact my former life until my honor is restored. They sat in silence for a while. Jake watched Zara's hands as she unconsciously touched a small metal pendant at her throat. It was the only decoration she had kept. What's that? He asked. A gift from my brother, she said, quickly dropping her hand. I should not wear it. It is from my old life. But you do wear it. It helps me remember why I must succeed in restoring my honor, not just for myself, but for my family's name. Jake stood up and began pacing. This is insane. You're one of the best pilots I've ever seen. You saved this entire colony. How can anyone say you don't have honor? Because honor is not about skill alone, Zara said quietly. It is about how others see you. When you mocked me in front of representatives from dozens of worlds, you told the galaxy that I was weak and foolish. Until you publicly say otherwise, that shame follows me everywhere. But I've seen how good you are. Isn't that enough? You have seen me serve faithfully. That is different from seeing me as worthy of respect. Jake stopped pacing and looked at her. What would it take? What do I need to do to restore your honor? You must judge me in the same way you shamed me. Publicly, in front of witnesses, with your true opinion of my worth as a warrior. That's it? I just have to say you're a good fighter? Zara shook her head. It must be genuine. The words must come from real understanding and respect, not from pity or guilt. And there must be proof of your judgment, something that shows the galaxy why you believe what you say. Jake felt overwhelmed. I don't know how to do that. I don't understand all this honor stuff well enough to make that kind of judgment. Then, I will continue to serve and teach until you do, Zara said simply. Over the next few weeks, Jake threw himself into learning everything he could about Kathmori culture. He studied their history, their fighting techniques, their codes of honor. The more he learned, the more impressed he became. The Kathmori had been protecting the outer rim of the galaxy for centuries. They fought not for conquest or profit, but because they believed it was their duty to protect those who couldn't protect themselves. Their warriors trained for decades to master not just combat skills, but philosophy, art, and diplomacy. Zara helped him understand by sharing stories of her people and demonstrating their fighting forms. Jake realized that what he had mistaken for ceremony and dancing was actually a complex system of combat that combined mental discipline with physical skill. "Your people are incredible," he said one day as they practiced in the training room. "Why don't more humans know about this?" "Because most humans see us as we appear, not as we are," Zara replied. "Beautiful and graceful, but not truly dangerous. It is easier to dismiss what you do not understand. Like I did. Like many species do, the Kathmori have learned to accept that others will underestimate us. But that's stupid. If people knew what you were really capable of, would it matter? Your people have their own ways of fighting, their own ideas of honor. We do not need approval from others to know our worth." Jake realized she was right. The Kathmori didn't care what others thought of them. They knew who they were and what they stood for. It was only when someone attacked that knowledge directly, as Jake had done, that their confidence could be shaken. The test came when the pirates returned. This time, there were twice as many ships, and they were angry. The colony's successful defense had made them look weak, and they wanted revenge. "All pilots to stations," Commander Harper announced. "This is not a drill." As Jake ran to his fighter, he found Zara beside him. "My captain, I request permission to fly with you again." "Permission granted," Jake said, "but this time we do things differently." "How so?" "This time you're not my servant following orders. You're my partner, and I'm trusting you to help me figure out how to win this thing." In the cockpit, Jake opened a channel to all the other pilots. "Listen up, everyone. Zara knows more about fighting tactics than all of us combined. I'm giving her tactical command of this mission." There was silence on the radio. Then Ryan's voice came through. "You sure about that, Jake?" "I'm sure," Jake said, looking at his scanner as the pirate fleet approached. "Zara, it's your show." For the first time since she arrived at the colony, Zara's voice carried the authority and confidence of a true commander. "All ships, this is Tactical Leader Zara. The enemy has more ships, but they are angry and want to hurt us quickly. We will use that anger against them." The battle that followed was like a deadly dance. Zara directed the colony's fighters with precision and creativity that amazed everyone. She anticipated every pirate move and had counter-moves ready before the enemy, even knew what they were doing. But the turning point came when the pirates tried a desperate attack on the colony itself. A group of fighters broke away from the main battle and dove toward the settlement. "I have to stop them," Jake said, turning his ship toward the attacking fighters. "Negative," Zara said firmly. "That is a trap. They want you to break formation. But if they reach the colony, they will not. Trust me, my captain." Jake forced himself to stay in formation, even as every instinct told him to protect the colony directly. Zara led their group in what looked like a retreat, drawing the main pirate force away from the colony. At the last second, she revealed her plan. The attacking fighters found themselves flying into a crossfire from the colony's ground defenses, and a group of fighters that Zara had positioned perfectly to ambush them. The pirate attack collapsed completely. The surviving ships fled, and this time they didn't come back. In the aftermath, Jake realized something important had happened. For the first time since arriving at the colony, Zara had acted like the warrior commander she truly was. And everyone, including Jake, had followed her lead without question. "That was brilliant," he told her as they walked back from the hangar. "You saved us all." "We saved each other," Zara replied. The message came 3 months after Zara's arrival at the colony. Commander Harper called Jake to her office with a serious expression on her face. "We've received a communication from the Kathmori fleet," she said. "They're requesting a formal meeting about Zara's status." Jake felt his stomach drop. "What kind of meeting?" "Elder Vexandra is coming here personally, along with several other high-ranking Kathmori officials. They want to evaluate whether the honor debt has been fulfilled. Doctor. Foster looked up from her tablet. This is highly unusual. Normally, these matters are handled privately within Kethmori society. The fact that they're making it formal suggests they're not happy with how long this is taking. What happens if they decide I'm not handling this right? Jake asked. Best case? They take Zara back to their fleet and deal with her shame according to their own traditions, Commander Harper said. Worst case? This becomes a diplomatic incident that affects human-Kethmori relations. Jake found Zara in the workshop, as usual. She was calibrating weapon systems, her movements precise and focused. When he told her about the meeting, she went very still. The elders are coming here? She asked quietly. Yeah, in 2 days. They want to see if your honor has been restored. Zara set down her tools and stared at the workbench. Has it been, my captain? Jake looked at her. Really looked at her. Over the past months, he had watched her work tirelessly to serve the colony. She had saved them twice from pirate attacks, improved their defense systems, and taught their pilots fighting techniques they never knew existed. Everyone respected her skills and trusted her judgment, but she still called him my captain. She still acted like his servant, asking permission for things she shouldn't need permission for. She still wore those plain gray clothes instead of the proud uniform of a Kethmori warrior. I don't know, Jake admitted. I mean, you've proved yourself 100 times over, but I don't think I understand your culture well enough to make that kind of judgment. Then I will likely return with the elders in disgrace, Zara said calmly. It is what I expected. No, Jake said firmly. That's not going to happen. We've got 2 days to figure this out. Jake spent those 2 days in intense study and conversation with Dr. Foster, trying to understand exactly what it meant to restore someone's honor in Kethmori culture. What he learned was both simple and complicated. The restoration had to be public, witnessed by people from multiple communities. It had to address the specific shame that was caused, and most importantly, it had to come from genuine respect and understanding, not just politeness or guilt. When the Kethmori ships arrived, half the colony turned out to watch. Elder Vexandra emerged from the lead ship, along with 5 other Kethmori officials wearing elaborate uniforms covered in symbols of rank and achievement. They were beautiful and intimidating, moving with the same grace Jake had first seen at the space station. But now he understood what that grace really meant. These weren't delicate decorations. They were deadly warriors who had earned every symbol they wore. The formal meeting took place in the colony's main hall. Elder Vex Andra sat across from Jake at a simple table, while the other officials and colony leadership watched from the sides. Human pilot Jake Martinez, the elder began, you have held the honor of Zarathix in your hands for many months. We have come to hear your judgment of her worth. Jake glanced at Zara, who stood at attention behind the Kethmori delegation. Her face showed no emotion, but he could see the tension in her shoulders. Before I give my judgment, Jake said, I want to tell you what I've learned. The elder raised an eyebrow, but nodded for him to continue. When I first met your people, I thought you were all ceremony and pretty decorations. I thought your fighting styles were outdated dancing. I was wrong about everything. Jake stood up and began walking around the room as he spoke. I've spent months learning about Kethmori culture and history. You've been protecting the Outer Rim for centuries, not for profit or conquest, but because you believe it's your duty. Your warriors train not just to fight, but to understand philosophy, art, and diplomacy. You combine physical skill with mental discipline in ways that put human training to shame. Several of the Kethmori officials looked surprised. They clearly hadn't expected a human to understand their culture so deeply. More importantly, Jake continued, I've had the chance to work with Zarathix, not as her master but as her partner, and I've learned something about honor that I didn't understand before. He stopped walking and faced the elder directly. Honor isn't about following rules or winning fights. It's about doing the right thing even when it's hard. It's about serving something bigger than yourself. It's about earning respect through your actions, not demanding it because of your rank. Elder Vexandra leaned forward slightly. And what does this tell you about Zarathix? It tells me that she never lost her honor in the first place, Jake said firmly. I was the one without honor. I mocked something I didn't understand, insulted a warrior who had done nothing but serve her people with distinction. Zara Thix has more honor in her little finger than I had in my whole body that day. The room was completely silent. Jake could see shock on the faces of both the Kethmori officials and his own people. But you want a formal judgment, Jake continued. You want me to evaluate her worth as a warrior based on what I've observed. Fine. He turned to face Zara directly. Zara Thix, daughter of the Star Winds, former commander of 3 ships, defender of the Outer Rim. In the months you have served at this colony, you have saved our lives twice through superior tactics and skill. You have improved our defenses, trained our pilots, and earned the respect of every person here. Jake's voice grew stronger as he continued. You are the finest warrior I have ever met. You are brilliant, brave, and honorable. Any military force in the galaxy would be honored to have you serve in their ranks. He paused, then spoke the words he had practiced. By the authority you have given me, and in front of these witnesses, I judge Zara Thix to be worthy of any rank or honor her people can bestow. Her debt to me is paid in full, and I am honored to call her my equal and my friend. The silence stretched for long moments. Then Elder Vexandra stood slowly. These are strong words, human pilot. But words alone cannot restore what was lost. Honor must be demonstrated as well as declared. What proof can you offer of your judgment? Jake had expected this question. I offer this proof. I request that Zara Thix be assigned as permanent military liaison between the Kethmori fleet and this human colony. I request that she serve not as my subordinate, but as my equal partner in command of our joint defense operations. Several people gasped. Jake was essentially asking the Kethmori to give Zara a position of real authority and responsibility. Furthermore, Jake continued, I request that she be given back her rank and command. The galaxy needs warriors like her in positions where they can do the most good. Elder Vexandra looked at the other officials, who began speaking quietly, in their own language. After several minutes, the elder turned back to Jake. Your words show wisdom, human pilot. Your request shows that you truly understand what we value. But the final choice must be Zara Thix's own. She turned to address Zara directly. Daughter of the Star Winds, you have served your debt faithfully. Jake Martinez has judged you worthy and offered proof of his respect. Do you accept the restoration of your honor? Zara stepped forward and, for the first time in months, stood with the proud bearing of a Kethmori warrior. I accept, she said, her voice strong and clear. And I accept the position offered if my elders approve. We approve, Elder Vexandra said with what might have been a smile. Commander Zara Thix, you are restored to your rank and honor. You will serve as our representative to this human colony, working as an equal partner with Pilot Martinez. The room erupted in cheers from both humans and Kethmori. Jake felt a huge weight lift from his shoulders as he watched Zara's transformation. She stood taller, moved with renewed confidence, and her eyes blazed with the fire he remembered from their first meeting. Later that evening, after the formal ceremonies were over, Jake found Zara on the observation deck looking out at the stars. She was wearing her Kethmori uniform again, complete with the decorations that marked her rank and achievements. How does it feel? He asked, joining her at the window. Strange, she admitted. For months I thought of myself as nothing but your servant. It will take time to remember who I was before. Not who you were, Jake said. Who you are. You never stopped being a great warrior, Zara. I was just too stupid to see it at first. She turned to look at him, and he was surprised to see tears in her eyes. Thank you, Jake Martinez. You gave me back more than my honor. You gave me back myself. Partners? Jake asked, holding out his hand. Zara smiled and shook it firmly. Partners. Good, Jake said, because we're probably going to face more pirates, and I'll need my tactical commander at her best. Your tactical commander? Zara asked with amusement. Well, you're still going to call me captain, right? Zara's smile widened. Yes, my captain. But now it means something different. Jake understood. Before, she had called him captain because she had to. Now she chose to, out of friendship and partnership rather than obligation. As they stood together watching the stars, Jake realized that his careless,